In 1986, the Chernobyl power plant exploded into neighboring areas. Upon further investigation, the catastrophe was due to a flawed reactor design coupled with inadequate personnel. Belarus, Russia, Ukraine, and the world beyond was contaminated in varying degrees. Many died from the explosion itself and the resulting radiation poisoning, and this tragedy is still negatively affecting lives to this day. Yet no human phenomenon on Earth is purely good nor purely evil. Thus, the events in Chernobyl have served as an alarm clock to our dangerously sleepy, outdated nuclear energy industry. While some groups argue that nuclear energy is the cleanest, cheapest way to create energy, we maintain that nuclear energy and the waste produced should be phased out of practice in order to minimize environmental impact and maximize coherence with our current economy. We agree with the United States Environmental Protection Agency in that proper disposal is essential to ensure protection of the health and safety of public and quality of environment, including air, soil, and water supplies. One of the biggest impacts that nuclear waste makes is the ways it affects the natural environment. Biodiversity is threatened as innocent plant and animal species are being exposed to the deadly warpath of toxic chemicals forced upon them. Harsh chemicals are mindlessly strewn across habitats of multiple organisms through methods of disposal like container burial and sea or space releases. Because the plants and animals are involuntarily being maltreated, conservationists aim to put a stop to the negative effects of radioactive waste by prompting government officials to supply a new solution. In addition, we need to be wary of defining the term acceptable. According to Diane D'Arrigo, the Radioactive Waste Project Director at the Nuclear Information and Resource Service, quote, there needs to be comprehensible oversight over the self-appointed industry committees that are in the early stages of setting, quote, acceptable contamination levels for animals and their habitats to prevent the unjustified legalization of harming wildlife with radiation. The pressure is mounting for a cleaner disposal, and safety implications need to be created in order to remove the threat of danger. If the catastrophic events continue to happen, these populations of plants and animals could face reproductive issues, evolutionary changes, and physical deformations. If nuclear energy is phased out, then there is a chance that we can save these poor creatures from imminent destruction. There are an array of possible nuclear waste storage solutions, ranging from geological disposal to dry cylinder storage, but none have been able to provide the services required for the dangerous substances to remain safely separated from the rest of the globe. There is no avoiding this issue. We have a plethora of nuclear waste, and we need to do something with it in order to protect the public from hazardous radiation. In addition, this isn't just a bunch of high-order officials calling for change. The public wants it too. 25% of tourists surveyed said that a mere presence of irradiated shipments would affect their decisions to visit Las Vegas in the future, and 49% said that even a minor accident would cause them to think twice about ever visiting Las Vegas again. In order for this phase out to be feasible in the United States, a number of conditions must be met. All this cannot be too overpriced, as America is a fiscally oriented country. The U.S. is no stranger to the expense of such facilities. The Yucca Mountain project is already 20 years behind schedule and $96.2 billion over budget. So there is little disagreement that we need a cost-effective solution to store nuclear waste we already have produced. Yet as a nation, we are only increasing the span of the problem by continuing the use of nuclear energy and thus creating more waste. The German government has recently released plans to phase out nuclear energy production by the year 2022. Through a step-by-step program, German nuclear power plants will be shut down 1 or 2 every year until 2022.
Will abandon nuclear power completely, step by step, until the end of 2022, as the country will simply become the pioneers on the way to create an age of renewable energy. The 2011 meltdown at the Fukushima power plant in Japan, worst atomic energy disaster since Chernobyl, is the key motivation for rushing through nuclear decommissioning. Security concerns are very strong. This is the main factor in the decision to begin reduction of nuclear energy in Germany. Atomic energy accounted for just under 18% of German electricity in 2011. Can renewable take up that slack? Government figures show that for every wind farm that generates 3,000 megawatts, the amount needed to power 3 million homes, we only expect it to deliver 900 megawatts to the national grid. In reality, over the last 10 years, they've only been getting around half of that, slightly over 16%, which in 2000, which has forced Germany back into the arms of fossil fuel. With nuclear power taken off the table by Angela Merkel, Germany is building a fleet of coal-fired power stations.
Through this radical new legislation, the Chancellor has hoped to lead her country to becoming, quote, pioneers on the way to create an age of renewable energies, end quote. Pioneers to a more hopeful future of sustainable energy with less hazardous risks for human beings. By 2022, Germany will be a country free of worries about nuclear explosions and dangerous radiation faced by its people and wildlife. This will lead to a majority of German power to be produced through renewable energy sources. But at what cost will becoming pioneers force average citizens to shoulder? Apparently, the transfer away from nuclear can cost a lot. This is exemplified in Germany, where citizens are facing an extra €260 or $355 a month tacked onto their existing energy bills. And this just isn't for a few months. Rates are fixed at this rate for the next 20 years. Most families could pinpoint exactly where an extra $350 a month would head, and paying off government fixed electricity bills isn't necessarily at the top of the list. In effect, Germans pay over 3 times as much electricity as Americans do. So naturally, people aren't exactly comfortable with this change. In addition, more coal plants are popping up all over Germany in order to lessen the blow on the power grid, yet these establishments will only increase CO2 emissions, essentially eliminating all forward progress made through the ridding of nuclear energy. While we agree that the increased burning of fossil fuels is somewhat counterproductive, some action is much better than no action. The Germans have already begun drafting plans for another slow release plan from the holds of fossil fuels. So while everything may not be a perfectly straight line towards sustainability, progress is definitely being made. Plus, prices slowly but surely will go down eventually. And yes, an additional €260 is not a small sum of money and may not be easy to shoulder for some households. Yet, this is a small sum to pay in order to bring a sustainable future closer to reality and increase our ability to offer a healthy earth to our children. And the Germans agree. Arne Jungdehan, Director of Environmental and Global Dialogue Program at the Heinrich Böll Foundation, adds, the majority of German people say they'd rather pay a little bit more for their electricity. Given that the environment is being destroyed, as well as the livelihood of innocent plants, animals, and humans, the best solution to end the obliteration is to phase out the use of nuclear energy. The idea of phasing out nuclear waste may seem slightly expensive, but if there are no people left on the planet because they've all been affected by nuclear waste, then our wallets won't matter. Due to a combination of nuclear explosions, radiation poisoning, and a polluted atmosphere, our planet is facing a substantial dilemma, which could eventually lead to the suicide of our beloved Earth.